if you look really, really close, you can see a faint chance, a glimmer, of the Patriots winning this week.
What's up, everybody? Thanks for joining me on another episode of Lombardi Time Brews. I am your host, John Delray. Today we're going to be going through the Packers versus Patriots matchup coming up this Sunday for Week 4 of the NFL regular season. If you caught Wednesday's video where I went over an injury report for the Packers and a little bit for the Patriots, you noticed that I was sick. As you can tell, I still do have a little bit of that cold, so I apologize for sounding a little bit off. Thanks for bearing with me as we go through. But before we dive in today, if you could please hit like, share, subscribe on this video, help get the word out about Lombardi Time Brews so that we can build a larger and larger Packer community. So I'm going to be talking Patriots. What did they do this offseason? What kind of coaching changes do they have? We know Belichick is still there, but there's some different parts around him. And really, how do these two teams match up? Could this be a trap game for the Green Bay Packers in Week 4? As I go through, I think you're going to see the answer. Possibility is certainly there. But first, before we get into the Patriots, let's cover today's injury report that just came out just before I hit record on the camera. For the Packers, few big pieces of news. One, Jair Alexander is listed as questionable. We will see if he will play. I know LaFleur said in his press conference this morning that whether he plays on Sunday or not is pretty dependent on how he does in practice today. Today, he logged a limited practice, so he gets a questionable tag. Whether he plays or not right now, I think is anybody's guess. Probably LaFleur, Barry, and Jair actually know. But we'll see. I would not be shocked at all if the Packers elect to sit him down. The Patriots do not exactly have the most weapons in the world. They're going to be going against a backup quarterback. We know that now. And yeah, you never want to take a game for granted. That's how you get trap games. But we know how conservative the Packers are with injuries, especially with their star players. This could be a week where Jair just gets the week off to let that groin heal. Or the total flip side, he may be doing better in these close practice sessions than anyone outside of the team actually knows, in which case he plays. And I'm going to trust the fact that if he plays, he's ready to play. We know that the Packers don't just allow anyone to go running out there. Other big piece of news, David Bakhtiari, Elgton Jenkins, no injury designations for them whatsoever. Now, with Elgton Jenkins, that's to be expected, but David Bakhtiari, few good things here. One, that means he did not have a setback coming off playing 56% of the snaps last week. We also know that may increase his chances of playing the whole game as opposed to rotating with Yash. Now, we don't know that for sure. Even up through the entire week, LaFleur would not say whether that rotation was going to keep into place. It all depended on Dave's knee. Well, now, with no injury designation, and we may be reading too far into it, but it's possible that he starts playing the entire game again. In which case, Yash, at least for now, reverts right back to the bench. And the issue of where all these people are going to go on the offensive line, if Yash is part of your best five, where does he go, etc., etc., etc.? Does Elgton move back to guard? All those questions, and they're not going to be answered this week. This week, I think, was very focused on getting some stability on the offensive line, making sure that Dave is good to play a whole game before you go switching around all these positions. And whether he can or not, we'll see. But no injury designation on him whatsoever is a really good sign that the knee is progressing exactly how the Packers and David Bakhtiari want. Last injury note for the Green Bay Packers, Christian Watson, Mercedes Lewis, Alan Lazard, all the guys who had limited practices all week, they're all good to go. No designations whatsoever. Mercedes Lewis, that's expected, but Christian Watson getting that speed back, it's going to be a big deal. I'm going to talk about that soon. Al Lazard means he's fully recovered from that ankle injury. Great news. Caleb Jones, however, is out with his illness. He is the only player for the Packers that is declared as out, and it's because he has an illness. You would think potentially the one that Cobb had last week. Who knows? But Caleb Jones out for this game with illness. Now, the New England Patriots. First of all, I'm going to say this. Belichick has been notorious for a very long time of making very long injury lists. I remember back when Tom Brady used to be on that list every freaking day for years, and the man never even had an injury. But Belichick just throws everybody on there just for the sake of confusion. So they have a very lengthy list right now. But if you really look into the details of the list, the New England Patriots have 2 players that are out. One, second-year starting quarterback Mac Jones. He is out, despite all of the posturing by the Patriots this week that maybe he would play. That Mac Jones was game planning and telling all the teammates, don't count me out just yet. Yeah, shut up. You have a high ankle sprain. So he's not playing this week, as expected. I don't think a lot of people really fell for that, but he's not playing this weekend. The other one that's out is Lawrence Guy. And that's actually a big deal for the Patriots from a game planning stance. Lawrence Guy is one of their best run-blocking defenders on their defensive line. And going against the Packers, you generally want all of your good run defenders available. Guy being out could be a big loss for this Patriot defense. So, everyone else's list is questionable. I think plays. They all got in limited practices all week. I would be surprised if all of these guys, and it's a lengthy list, if all these guys who are listed as questionable don't play. I think they're all just going to play. They all practiced all week to some degree. So, now, let's talk Patriots and what are they doing in New England. So, first of all, the Patriots are 1-2. They took a loss week 1 against the Dolphins. Week 2, they won against the Steelers. Week 3, they took a loss against the Ravens. So they come into this game 1-2, and they come in, I guess I'm kind of lost on the Patriots. You know, they're still trying to do things the Patriot way, but this team just doesn't have the ability that a lot of obviously of the dynasty teams, but even some of the playoff teams more recently that we've seen come out of New England, it just doesn't have that kind of ability. Now, they are still very much figuring out things on the offensive side, which takes us to the coaches. Bill Belichick is still there. He's the head coach. He has been the head coach of the Patriots for 23 years now, and everyone knows his resume. He's going to go down as probably one of the top 5 coaches ever. But his 2 underlings on the offensive side of the ball, these 2 are new, Joe Judge and Matt Patricia. Both have worked for Belichick for a number of years. Both left Belichick to go take head coaching jobs, Patricia in Detroit, Judge with the Giants. And now they're both back. Both in New England. Both failed head coaches coming right back home. And Patricia seems to be working predominantly with the running game, and Joe Judge seems to be working predominantly with the passing game. However, in their previous stints, Patricia was the defensive guy and Judge was a special teams coordinator. So, I hate to put a lot of blame at coach's feet. And Belichick has certainly proven over his 23 years of head coach of New England, he knows what he's doing. And a lot of coaching, yes, you have to be an expertise in your craft, but a lot of coaching just comes down to the people that you are. And Patricia and Judge have proven to have a lot of success in New England. And even though they had failed head coaching stints, you obviously can still pull good and bad from both of those head coaching stints. So, but nonetheless, this offense has just kind of felt a little lost thus far this year. They're running the ball well. But passing the ball doesn't seem to have a lot of connection, and a lot of the running seems to be based upon their offensive line. They have one of the best in the league, which we're going to get to soon. So this is a very, very interesting matchup. Speaking of matchup, the last time that these two teams met was in 2018. It was about 2 months before Mike McCarthy was ultimately let go. Patriots wound up winning. I'm not going to dive into this game a lot because it was McCarthy era. Things are obviously completely different now. These two teams do not meet often in the history of both franchises. They've only met 11 times in the regular season, with the New England Patriots holding a 6-5 all-time lead. However, The Packers, if you're counting the postseason, the Packers have a 6-6 tie with the Patriots because of Super Bowl 31, where, of course, the Packers won and raised the Vince Lombardi Trophy. So let's talk about what the Patriots did this offseason, how this team is a little bit different than last year's team. First of all, they had a very interesting draft, a very shocking first-round pick in the form of guard Cole Strange. Strange has been starting for the Patriots at left guard all through the 3 weeks of this year. He's doing okay. There certainly are some rookie struggles there. PFF has him graded at a 59.1. And both passing and rushing are both right around there in terms of his blocking grade. So he's in the high 50s. He is the weak link on the offensive line. No doubt about it. And PFF actually rated the Patriots as having the third best offensive line in football to this point. And identified, because when they do those rankings, then they also put a little disclaimer in there about who's the worst of the five. And for the Patriots, it's Cole Strange. But still, a new addition to the Patriots. Another new addition of theirs was Tyquan Thornton. Very fast wide receiver, who the Packers will not have to play because he's currently on injured reserve. And those are really, out of all the Patriot draft picks, those are really kind of the two most noteworthy. I mean, they've got Bailey, I'm failing on his last name, but Bailey, who third-string quarterback. With Brian Hoyer starting, we're not going to see the rookie much at quarterback. And then a lot of guys who've not gotten many snaps at all. Their third-string running back is a rookie. They've got a couple corners who are rookies, but no one who's playing. So very, very non-impactful draft for the New England Patriots thus far this last year. Now, who did they add? Well, they added Devontae Parker. They traded for him. They got him from the Dolphins, and he is their number one wide receiver. In a lot of ways, I mean, both snaps and production, he is their number one wide receiver. They also added Jabril Peppers. They signed him as a free agent. He is the Patriots' box safety. So they've got Adrian Phillips, they've got Devin McCourty, and they've got Jabril Peppers. Whenever they need a box guy, it's Peppers. He fills that void for them. And then who else did they add but former Packer Ty Montgomery? They brought him in to be a complement to James White. Turns out James White retired, and so Ty Montgomery was just going to be the receiving running back until he got hurt. So the Packers are not going to have to face him either in Ty Montgomery's homecoming game. So you can tell they didn't add a lot of top-end talent. They didn't add a lot of starters. But who did they lose? Well, they lost James White because he retired, but they also lost Shaq Mason. Packers wound up playing Shaq Mason last week against Tampa Bay because New England traded him away, so he's no longer there. They released Kyle Van Noy. They traded away N'Keal Harry to Chicago. And then Ted Karras is also gone. So, I mean, there you've got two offensive linemen, a wide receiver, a linebacker, James White. That's some talent that actually left. And they didn't get a lot of talent in. So I think it's kind of tough to say that this Patriots team is better than it was last year. So, yeah, this is a very interesting matchup. The Patriots seem to be a team that is very much in flux, very much in rebuild, and a lot of questions surrounding this team. In spite of that, though, leads me to my number one thing that I'm watching this weekend. The Packers and Patriots, even though the Patriots are finding their way, they're kind of mirrors of each other in terms of what each team does well. I mentioned already that the Patriots have the third best offensive line according to PFF. Well, the Packers have sixth. These are two teams that put a high priority on the offensive line, and we know that the Packers' ranking is going to improve with continued health from Bakhtiari, Elton Jenkins, etc. But New England, even with Cole Strange being the weak link, even with a couple of the light injuries that they've sustained, this is still a very good offensive line, ranked third in the NFL according to PFF. Let's look at the running back position. All right, well, Green Bay obviously has Jones and Dillon. Jones being a little bit more of a receiver than Dillon, the shifty one, the quicker one, and then you got Dillon, the battering ram. Well, compare that to New England. And New England also runs a duo at running back, and they're averaging a combined 4.8 yards a carry. And it was originally supposed to be Ty Montgomery who caught the ball, but now because he's out, it's Stevenson. Stevenson is their light, very light, Aaron Jones. Quicker, has a little bit more receiving prowess. And then they've got Damian Harris to be their bulldozer, their goal line back. It's a team that runs the ball and runs it pretty well. Both Stevenson and Harris are rated very favorably according to PFF. So this is a team that struggles to open up its passing game, and so they run the ball a lot, and they do so behind a very strong offensive line. Kind of sounds familiar. Looking on the defensive side of the ball, what do they have? Well, they still have quite a bit of talent, but a lot of that talent rests on the edge with Wise and Judon, their version of Rashawn Gary and Preston Smith. See what I'm getting at? This is a team for the Patriots, especially with Guy out, that struggles to defend the run. If you're a DVOA disciple and you like those advanced metrics, both the Patriots and Packers are god-awful defending the run according to DVOA. So you've got Wise, you've got Judon, you've got a poor run defense. But then back there in the secondary, you've got a veteran safety in Devin McCourty, who has not been playing realistically up to his career potential thus far this year. Kind of like Adrian Amos. And then they've got their cornerback, the number 1 rated cornerback in the NFL according to PFF, Jones. They're Jair. So you see how across the board, both offense and defense, both of these teams have strength in similar spots. They don't necessarily use those strengths the same way, but they still have them in the same spots. Now, the Packers are a far superior team to the New England Patriots. There's no bones about it. But what we see is that each team's greatest strength happens to be the same thing on the other team. In similar ways, too. It's just the Packers have a lot more strengths in other spots, too. Takes me to number 2. We know that Bill Belichick and what he excels at defensively is taking away what the other team does well. And that sounds incredibly simple, right? But Belichick has seemed to do it better than darn near anyone for a very long time. How are they going to deploy their defense against Green Bay? Are they going to, with their poorly rated rush defense, are they going to sell out to stop Jones and Dillon? And Jones, their all-world corner right now, where's he going to go? Are they going to shade him more to the side of the field of Allen Lazard? Are they going to shade him more to Romeo Doubs? Because Jones historically has been a slot corner. This year they have him playing more on the outside for the first time in his career. And it's working because now he's the top-rated coverage corner. So if the Packers stick Lazard in the slot, I don't think we're going to see Jones follow him a lot. So where's Jones going to go? Historically, too, a trait of Belichick's defense has actually been to take his number 1 corner and put it upon the opposing team's number 2 wide receiver. And the reason for that is because then he doesn't have to worry about the number 2, and he throws all of these extra assets, all this extra talent, at the number 1 wide receiver, because then he can do doubles and triples and zones. But he leaves his number 1 corner to take on the number 2 wideout of the team. It's very unconventional, and yet it's worked very well. Does he continue to deploy that? In which case, again, where does Jones go? Defensively, do they sell out to stop the pass? Or does he decide to take away Green Bay's run, even though it's not what they're good at? Belichick still, even after the failings of the last couple of years, still has to be respected as one of the best defensive minds in the NFL, and realistically, quite possibly the NFL's history. So, it's going to be very, very interesting to see how New England comes at this mosaic offense of Green Bay. Because now, Green Bay's offense, you can't just say, take away Devontae. You can't just say, take away Aaron Rodgers' lanes. Now you got to defend it all. That's kind of the cool thing of this mosaic offense. You've got to defend it all. Because while it's not all world ability everywhere, the Packers certainly have plenty. Number 3. How does the return of Christian Watson affect this offense? We saw it last week that Tampa Bay was able to clamp down harder on the line of scrimmage because Christian Watson's speed wasn't there to spread out the field. Does the offense schematically change with his return? I think it's a big question, and I think it does. He's the only receiver with the physical traits on this team that he has. There's no one else in this team that can match his speed, especially when you factor in that height. He changes things for them. And they spent a second-round draft pick on him to make sure that he changes things for them. So we'll see. I think the scheme is going to change. Takes us to the big question of the day. Is this a trap game for the Green Bay Packers? And I've heard about it a little bit. There was one national podcast that talked about it today. And the questions are, Green Bay's coming off a big win, going against a backup quarterback where weird crap always seems to happen. And they've got their eyes on London next week. Guys are thinking about their travel plans, thinking about traveling the world. And you're going against a 1-2 team who you are vastly superior to. I understand how this could be a trap game. In spite of that, though, this is still the Patriots. This is still Belichick. I mean, this isn't some 1-2 Giants team. This isn't some 1-2 Lions team. It's not some 1-2. This is the Patriots. I think no matter what, you've got to be firing on all cylinders to take on the Patriots and Belichick. Whether they're good or not, I think the reputation alone makes you walk into this game feeling as though you have to be tactily and strategically on your game. So, ultimately, is this a trap game? Could I see it? Sure. Do I think it will be? No. No, I don't. I think the Green Bay Packers take this win 27-17. I think Aaron Rodgers finishes with 224 yards and 2 touchdowns. I think this is a Packer win to move to 3-1 and drop the New England Patriots down to 1-3 before we cross the pond and head on over to London. So, there you have it, a Green Bay Packer victory going up against the New England Patriots. Thanks for joining me on another episode of Lombardi Time Brews. Please hit like, share, subscribe, follow me on Twitter, follow me on Facebook, all the stuff. Complete all of that stuff. Click all the buttons, and let's build a bigger and bigger Packer community together. Check back to the channel tomorrow, as I'm really hoping to have my first memorabilia focused video out tomorrow. I've got a couple of announcements. I'm going to be going through my favorite cards or my coolest cards out of my personal collection, and eventually we're going to dive into bobbleheads, we're going to dive into all this stuff, and eventually the hope is with these memorabilia videos that I'm going to go interview people who have their own collections. So really excited to get going on this, really hoping to have the card video out tomorrow, and then Sunday you'll be seeing me Sunday for the game. So as always, I hope you have an absolutely wonderful day. Thanks for checking out Lombardi Time Brews. Go Pack Go.